Hello and welcome. This is my first LarryBoy chapter book. This won't be a read-along type book like my previous ones, but you are welcome to listen or, if you have your own book, read along with me. I'm going to section this book into 10-minute videos. If this is too much time or too little time, please let me know. I will make adjustments per your request. I will also put all of these books in their own playlist so you can keep track of where you are at in the story. I do hope you enjoy. This book is called LarryBoy and the Sinister Snow Day. Chapter 1. Bumbling in the Bumble Basement. It was very dark. In fact, it was impossible to see anything at all. "Ouch!" cried a voice. "Who's there?" asked a second, squeaky voice.
"It's me,"
replied the first voice.
"Who said who's there?"
"I did," said the second voice, getting squeakier.
"What are you doing here?"
demanded the first voice.
"What are you doing here?"
squeaked the second.
"I asked first,"
the first voice insisted.
"Ouch! I stepped on something hard."
"That's me,"
the second voice squeaked in pain.
"What's going on here?"
cried Bob, as suddenly the lights were turned on. Bob, the editor of the Daily Bumble, stood near the light switch of the newspaper's printing room. Herbert and Wally looked up from the middle of the room where they were standing next to the large printing press. They both looked sheepish.
"What did you find, boss?"
asked Vicky, the Bumble's photographer. She bounded into the room behind Bob. Just then Larry, the newspaper's janitor, peeked into the room too.
"What's going on?"
asked Larry.
"Bob heard intruders in the print room,"
answered Vicky.
"Intruders?"
Larry exclaimed.
"This is a job for... excuse me, please."
Larry turned and dashed away. Bob and Vicky watched the janitor for a moment and then looked at each other and shrugged. Larry often acted strangely, and they were becoming used to it. They turned their attention back to Herbert and Wally.
"What are you two doing in my printing press room?"
asked Bob.
"Well,"
said Wally.
"Well, what?"
demanded Bob.
"I was going to change the headline for tomorrow's sports page,"
confessed Wally.
"Change it?"
asked Bob.
"What's wrong with Bumbleberg Baseball has bets in its belfry?"
"Nothing," said Wally. "I just thought a better headline might say, 'Wally beats Herbert in bowling' instead."
"Now why didn't we think of that?"
sighed Vicky, rolling her eyes.
"What about you?"
Bob asked Herbert.
"I was going to change the headline to read, 'Wally snores,'"
said Herbert. Bob sighed.
"When are the two of you ever going to learn?" "What do you mean?"
asked Wally.
"We already graduated from school."
"I got straight A's in finger painting,"
said Herbert.
"and it's not easy for a vegetable with no fingers." "It's not what I mean," said Bob. "You keep letting your petty squabbles get you into trouble." "What's a squabble?"
asked Herbert.
"It's a board game,"
replied Wally.
"That's Scrabble,"
said Vicky.
"Oh,"
said Wally.
"Have no fear, LarryBoy is here,"
said a voice from the doorway. Bob, Vicky, Herbert, and Wally turned toward the door and saw... Chapter 2, LarryBoy to the rescue! They saw LarryBoy, super cucumber champion among vegetables, the green guardian of Bumbleberg, and an all-around nice guy.
"Step aside, Bob. I'll take care of these intimidating intruders,"
announced LarryBoy.
"I don't think that will be necessary,"
said Bob.
"These two are..."
But before Bob could finish his sentence, LarryBoy leaped over and pushed him aside. Bob stumbled into the control panel of the printing press, and the machine roared to life.
"Don't try to run,"
LarryBoy yelled at the motionless Herbert and Wally.
"Okay,"
said Wally. Herbert just nodded.
"Villains always try to run,"
LarryBoy whispered to Vicky.
"but I'm too smart for that. Watch."
Pop! LarryBoy shot off one of his plunger ears. The suction cup whizzed past the two intruders and wedged into the printing press.
Hmm,
mused LarryBoy.
if they had been running, that shot would have been a direct hit. But they aren't running.
Vicky noted.
Really?
Asked LarryBoy.
Hey, cut that out. Cut what out?
Asked Vicky.
Someone's pulling on my plunger ear,
said LarryBoy. Vicky looked at Bob, who looked at Wally, who looked at Herbert. No one was pulling either of LarryBoy's plunger ears.
No one is pulling either of your plunger ears,
said Vicky.
But look at the printing press.
Everyone looked at the spot where LarryBoy's ear hit the machine. The plunger ear was being pulled inside the press, dragging LarryBoy along with it.
Help!
Shouted LarryBoy frantically as he was being pulled closer to the press.
Turn the machine off,
shouted Vicky. LarryBoy was getting closer still.
I'm trying,
shouted Bob. LarryBoy was now pressed against the machine.
Too late,
shouted Wally as LarryBoy disappeared into the press.
I want to shout something too,
shouted Herbert, feeling left out. It was indeed too late. LarryBoy had been pulled into the printing press. Bob, Vicky, Herbert, and Wally looked on helplessly. The machine groaned.
Ouch,
winced Bob.
That's gotta hurt.
Clunk, clank, clunk, splat! The machine continued making odd noises.
Look, he's up there,
Wally exclaimed. LarryBoy briefly appeared near the top of the printing press.
I'm okay,
LarryBoy said before being pulled back into the machine.
Yes, but is the printing press okay?
Asked Bob. As if in answer, ink began spurting out the sides of the press.
Oh no,
moaned Bob. Clank, cluck, splat, and then suddenly a final sploosh. LarryBoy shot out of the end of the machine. He was bundled with a stack of newspapers, and the headline, "School Back in Session," was printed across his forehead. Are you all right? Asked Vicky.
Sure,
said LarryBoy. He was acting tough to impress Vicky. That's one way to get your uniform pressed, she joked.
Now we're going to have to reset the whole thing,
said Bob.
It's going to be a late night. Sorry,
said LarryBoy. Don't feel sorry for us, said Vicky. You should feel sorry for Larry, our janitor.
Me?
Squealed LarryBoy.
I mean, me feel sorry for Larry? Why should I feel sorry for Larry?
Look at this place, said Vicky. The room was a mess. Ink was splattered everywhere, on the walls, on the ceiling, even on Bob. It's going to take Larry days to clean up this room.
Whoop,
said LarryBoy.
Come on, Vicky,
said Bob. We have a paper to put out. Chapter 3. Whether the weather is sunny or not. Whap! A newspaper bounced against the door of the Asparagus House. The door flew open as Junior dashed out, snatched up the paper, and ran back inside. He raced to the living room, plopped down on the floor, and opened it up. Junior quickly flipped past the book review of Chef Croswell's bestseller, Littering, Loitering, and the Law. He barely saw the photo of Herbert and Wally breaking the world eating record as they devoured a 60-foot-tall leaning tower of pizza. He found the page he was looking for and eagerly scanned it.
Rats,
Junior grumbled as his dad came around the corner.
What's wrong, son?
He asked.
It's the weather report,
said Junior.
I was hoping for a snowstorm this morning.
A snowstorm in September? Junior's dad chuckled. That would be surprising. But don't worry, it will snow in a couple of months.
A couple of months?
Junior yelped.
But that's a lifetime away. I want it to snow today.
But if it snowed today, his dad reasoned, they might have to cancel school. You wouldn't want that, would you? Junior's dad had missed the point completely. That is exactly why Junior wanted it to snow.
Dad,
said Junior,
you completely missed the point. That is exactly why I want it to snow.
I thought you liked school, he said.
Sure, when I was a kid,
said Junior.
But now that I'm growing up, I have better things to do.
Growing up? But you are still in grade school, said Dad.
The way I see it,
Said Junior.
counting preschool, I've already had several years of classes, so I'm basically nearing adulthood.
Dad chuckled and picked the paper up from the floor. Really? He said. Well, just remember that God wants everyone to keep learning, even grown-ups. When you stop learning, you stop growing.
Sure, Dad.
Junior said.
Can I look at the paper again?
Of course. What are you looking for?
I forgot to see if it's going to snow tomorrow,
Said Junior. It's not going to snow tomorrow, his dad replied.
Too bad,
Moaned Junior, as he stared out the window at the clouds and dreamed of snow. I will leave a link right here for the next section, which is the beginning of Chapter 4 in LarryBoy and the Sinister Snow Day. We'll see you next time.